How does the process work? How does it start, right? So I typically take the lead on phone calls. People call in, how does your lending process work? What do I need to do? So it's pretty basic, it really is. This doesn't have to be harder than it is. So we ask you for 20% of the purchase price and closing costs. We fund the other 80% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab, right? So we're in for the vast majority of this. The 20% is the skin in the game, right? And we base it, this is really important, we base it on the one number that doesn't change, which is the purchase price. I get the question all the time, well, how much percent of, or what LTV do you go off of, right? We don't go off of LTV. We go off of 20% of purchase price, and we're out to see the property, which is where you get your clear to close, right? So it's us laying eyes on the property with you. That's where we meet most of our borrowers. We meet all of our borrowers face to face. That's how we like it, right? Put a face with a voice. That's why we do these meetups. It's nice to know who you're working with. So that being said, we go out to the property. Steve does the vast majority of the visits. He has a tremendous amount of experience, and he knows within 10 minutes of being in a property whether your rehab estimate is right and whether that ARV value is going to be there, right? And we've already done our homework if it's a hold on whether you're going to get the rental income that you need to for this property. And by the way, there's a very different rehab for a rental property than there is for a flip, right? So you're going to do a max rehab on a flip because you want to get top tier value, right, for your property. You want to at least meet the market, if not set the market. On a hold, you're going to rent that property, right? And you're going to rent it again, then you're going to rent it again. So that rehab can and should look very different, right? So those numbers change. We can tell you where you need to be on both your flip ARV or your flip rehab, and then where you need to be on your hold rehab. We go through the process of seeing the property, and prior to that, the easiest thing, as was mentioned earlier, is, okay, so how do I need to start, right? This doesn't obligate you to work with us, but in order to know that we're going to work with you and you want to work with us, we need to get you underwritten, right? So what do we need to get you underwritten? We don't have a formal application. There's no application fee. What I need is basic information from you, right? So a copy of your driver's license. I need your tax returns from the most recent year, and I need verification of assets, right? So where is the money going to come from that you are going to use for the 20% of the purchase price and the closing costs? And we tell you what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear, right? And if situations were reversed, that's exactly what I want. So if you don't take anything away from this other than this, I want you all to know that we are golden rule guys with a golden rule approach. We treat people the way we want to be treated. We don't want one-offs. We're happy to take those, and we have many of those. But what we're really looking for and where our business is built and what we hang our hat on is the repeats and referrals, right? So we want you to have a very pleasant experience working with us, so when you move on to your next one, hopefully we'll be your first choice as the lender, right? That's how our business is built. That's the approach that we take. That's why we're hands-on. That's why we have these meetups. And that's why we will tell you this is a deal you need to walk away from. And oftentimes, that's what you need to hear, because your realtor isn't necessarily going to tell you that. And that isn't a knock on realtors. Realtors are in it to make the sale. We're in it to make sure that you come out on the other end whole, and that you come out the way you think you're going to come out. There's a million things in this progression that you can't necessarily calculate or count on. What's behind the wall? How quickly is the contractor going to get through it? How much and how long is the biggest part of this equation, right? That's always. So hopefully it moves as quickly as you want it to. What I can tell you we never hear is great news, we're ahead of schedule and under budget, right? That does not happen. Knowing that that's the case, it's always better to go conservatively. That's our whole approach, right? So when you send me in your information, as he mentioned, we get you underwritten in 20 minutes. Okay, you're approved, you're good to go, off to the hunt, right? You're looking at properties, give me a call, right? You just saw 123 Main Street, here's what they're asking, here's what you want to offer, here's what you anticipate that rehab range to be, here's what you anticipate that ARV range to be. I'm going to do my due diligence from the office, so is Josh, so is Steve, and if it looks good to us, if it looks like those numbers are real, great. Your offer gets accepted. we're out to see the property. And because of how we run things, because we're local, because we are a speedboat and not a cruise ship, we know how to prioritize accordingly. If that closing needs to be in 10 days, then we need to see that property tomorrow, right? So we make the necessary arrangements and we ship things accordingly so that we can do that. If those numbers look right, your offer gets accepted, we're then out to see the property. And that's typically where you get your clear to close or you get your clear to move on, right? You may do this deal. If you choose to do this deal, it won't be with us, right? And that's always in your best interest. And if you think about that, we've already gone through the process with you. We've come out to see the property and we're walking away. If we're walking away, we're not making any money. And if we're walking away, that's because we know you're not going to make any money, right? So that's the approach, right? That's what we do that's different than most other lenders, right? We care first about your success, then we care if it's a good business decision for us. Because as has been mentioned many times, we don't want the damn property, right? We want to lend, we stay in our lane, we want to do good deals with good folks, rinse and repeat. Right? It's real simple. It doesn't have to be harder than it is. So that being said, when we calculate the numbers, we also calculate the numbers very conservatively, okay? So when you give me that rehab range, I'm plugging it in at the high, right? When you give me that ARV range, I'm plugging that in at the low, okay? If that deal looks good that way, it's only going to get better based on what we know at this point and then what we see when we're out at the property. So again, we've gone very conservatively on this. No white knuckling, no sleepless nights. We want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed at this point, right? And then what comes after is what comes after. By the way, that's why we're out for the draws as well, okay? We want to make sure that the work is being done the right way and being done in a timely fashion. And as was mentioned, we do not front that rehab money, right? They get paid for work as work is completed. That keeps them working on your project, and we wire funds the day that we're out for that draw. Your project, your property will never be held up. Your contractor will never be held up because of us. And you're the GC of this project, right? So if you time it accordingly, right? No one's ever truly out of pocket and everything runs like clockwork, right? This is all about planning a project. You're running a business. You are the CEO of this business, right? And we're here to help fund it. So help us help you. That's always the case. And we're going to let you know every step of the way how you need to do that and what the next best step should be. So when we calculate the numbers, right? We calculate the numbers using when you give me your purchase price, you give me your anticipated rehab range run at the high and your anticipated ARV run at the low. I'm going to tell you what your ROI is going to look like and what your net cash return is going to look like. We calculate that conservatively as well. So what I mean by that is we're going to factor in the average, right? You have a 1-year term with us, okay? The average close to close, average, is 8 months, right? You think you're going to get it done sooner, you get it done sooner, great. That's more money in your pocket. If it takes a little longer, again, you have a year with us, right? Things happen, weather happens, people get sick, different things occur that you can't account for. All is good and well. So we go through that. It's 8 months close to close. That's how we run the numbers. And we base it on closing costs as well, right? Closing costs on the back end, which a lot of people don't necessarily think of or factor in. You're going to have to account for roughly 10% in closing costs on the back end. 5% realtor fee is pretty standard, right? 3% seller contribution on a property that you're selling for less than $350,000, give or take, pretty standard. And 1.25 to the state for transfer and recordation taxes, nothing you can do about that. We back out that 10%, we factor in 8 months close to close. I'm giving you your ROI and your net cash return based on that, okay? If that number sounds good to you, perfect. If it sounds good, looks good to us, we're out to see the property, perfect. We're moving to close from there. And how quickly can we close? You heard it from Josh. We've done it in 36 hours. That's back against the wall, hair on fire, gun to our head. We don't want to do that, but there are times when that has to happen, right? And to know that you have a lender that can do that for you, that is that's rare, and that's significant.